If you had the benefit of a traditional education, you must be getting a little bit confused by what's going on at the moment. So, for example, you might have covered when you were at school the Antonine Plague, the plagues of the Middle Ages, the Black Death, and the plagues in the 1700s, in the days of King Charles II, and Samuel Pepys, and the Spanish flu perhaps in 1918. You might have covered that. You might even remember, of course, you didn't need to do it in a history book, you might have remembered the Great Flu also of 1968. So we've gone through this kind of thing before, but one thing that we did do, that society did, they counted the number of people who died from the plague, died from the flu. How many people have died? Because that's exactly on what you base your response. That's how you deal with it scientifically, socially, and historically. How many people have died? Now, we can't get that from our government at the moment. They're fudging it. They keep on saying how many people have died with COVID. So it could be on the birth certificate, but it could have just, you could have died of pancreatic cancer, and COVID, you happen to have COVID or got COVID when you were in hospital, and it's on the death certificate. That goes on the list, and it all goes together. So we're not dealing with the right statistics here. We're not dealing with the right statistics. And until we start dealing with the right statistics, we can't respond in the right way. We can't respond sensibly and scientifically until we know exactly what's going on. And I've made this point on many occasions, and I've made the point in my last video that I don't believe it has very much to do with health at all. It has more to do with political control and what's coming down the path to us. Now, what is coming down the path faster than most people imagine, is the problem we have with national debt. Now, most people don't think national debt's got anything to do with them. It's never discussed. It's not even talked about at general elections. But the national debt of Great Britain at the moment now is over £1 trillion, and it's rising. And if you look at every single country, they're the same. America, Europe, the Eurozone, debt is just going through the ceiling. And if you add national debt and corporate debt and private debt, you come to something like 300 trillion. It's $300 trillion. That is beyond human imagination. We cannot conceive of a figure of 300 trillion. We can't do it. Our brains aren't designed to do it. And I was watching a program on the cosmos the other night, and they were talking about a star that they were investigating, or a nebula they were investigating, of 90 billion light years away. That is beyond human imagination, or certainly most of us, 90 billion light years. We can't deal with that. And we're now dealing with debt that we can't deal with even in our heads, never mind repay or put right or bring down. So we're dealing with a very big national crisis, international crisis on banking and fiat currency. That there is no question. And the levers of power are being put in control. First of all, you frighten everybody to think they're going to die, when in fact the recovery rate from this virus that we've had is on average 99% if you're reasonably fit. And much more than that if you're young and fit. And so the levers are in power now to lock us in our houses. The police, the politicisation of the police powers that they've been granted, albeit temporarily, but they can be put back in almost overnight, and all these things. And I think it's coming down the road because we're going to be facing an international currency crisis and banking crisis. It's a hypothesis for you to ponder. You think about it. You think why they're doing this, which is irrational. Why is it that they had all these parties at number 10 Downing Street full of civil servants and politicians? If they really believed that social distancing worked, if they really believed that they were going to die from this virus, and it was really so horrible, they wouldn't have done that. So the question is, do they believe it themselves? Do they believe their own propaganda in the same way that we had prohibition, did we not, in the late 1920s, in the roaring 20s, late 1920s, where congressmen, policemen, the judiciary, senators didn't take any notice of their own legislation. They carried on boozing at the speakeasies and their parties, so on and so forth. And these are the kind of things that happen. People at the top of the tree don't take any notice, so they're not afeard of this. They're not afeard of this. They're not worried about this. In private, and you see the first thing they do is remove their masks when they're walking to number 10 Downing Street. And you see pictures that haven't been taken, official pictures. When it's official, there's a social distance and there's a mask. And when you see another picture, they're close together with their arms around each other, so on and so forth, and there are no masks. So they don't believe it. They don't believe it. Now, I often wonder what we're going to look back on. What is history going to call this? We called it the naughty 90s and the 1890s, when King Edward was going to music halls and drinking champagne and with girlfriends and all the rest of it. A bit of a scallywag. He used to enjoy himself rather a lot, maybe too much, I don't know. But my goodness me, he's rather more fun than this bloody nerd we've got at the moment. What a boring dude he is. Prince Charles, dear oh dear. So this is the 1890s. And then we had the roaring 20s. And then we had a depression of the 30s. And we had the swinging 60s, didn't we? That was fun. Yeah, I was around at that. That was fun. So, what are they going to call the 20s? The mad 20s, the dystopian 20s, the lunatic 20s. What are they going to call it? When we cast away our constitutional rights, virtually all over the world. We abandoned the Nuremberg Code, internationally signed up to. All these things have been got rid of. And to no avail. To no avail, because if you look at Texas, and I've said it before, you look at Florida, and if you look at South Dakota, if you look at Sweden, so on and so on. If you look at all these places who haven't gone through that, they haven't closed everything down, they haven't done all these things, it hasn't made a halfpenny worth of difference, has it? Look at the numbers. Check the numbers. Don't take my word for it. Go and look at the numbers yourself. You owe it to yourself to find out the truth. So how are we going to deal with this? Well, I've said it before, and I'm going to go on saying it. Only you can stop it. Only you can stop it. Ordinary folk can stop it. Compliance isn't freedom. Don't comply all the time. You can stop complying. All the petty rules and regulations and all the stuff that the bosses don't pay any attention to, the politicians don't pay any attention to, celebrities don't pay any attention to. I wonder if you saw that picture of Leonardo Dicaprio, who's some sort of film star. I can't say I've heard of him myself, but I looked at it and he's on his yacht. We've got all these characters that fly in on their private jets, telling us that they're going to save the planet. And so it goes on and so it goes on. It's madness. And if we stop complying and say, no, this is enough, we're not going to do this any longer, we can stop it. Complicity and silence for much longer will be our death knell as a free society. Ponder it if you will. Well, greetings to you. As you know, social media was a wonderful invention so that we could all communicate with each other and share our views and share views that aren't necessarily in line with the establishment, the global establishment, which is run mainly by banks and big pharma. So I've been doing my best to do that, but I am increasingly being shadow banned or taken down, and so are many others. So beware of that, and I will be tagging anything I do in the future with various sources and various channels so that you will know, well, I've been censored from this, but I've been censored, but you can find it somewhere else. So the whole thing can continue. And I think some of these new channels, which aren't owned by the establishment or influenced by the establishment, banks and big pharma and all the rest, you'll be able to follow the facts. And that doesn't mean fact checkers, of course, which are owned by the establishment. So I just thought I'd give you the heads up on that. And thank you for your sponsorship and your support. I thank you for it. Without you and the information that sometimes you people send me, I couldn't continue. Thank you again. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research based. And I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.